Welcome to the channel. So, President Trump just dropped a major surprise on our South Korean allies. Yesterday, he ordered the Pentagon to substantially reduce our joint military exercises with South Korea, calling them too costly and hostile to North Korea. I have a clip here, let me show you, from the BBC that gives us an overview.
President Donald Trump has ordered the Pentagon to scale back annual joint military exercises with South Korea. In a social media post on Sunday, Trump said that the exercises, the latest of which began on Monday, are not only costly, but send a signal that is totally inappropriate and hostile to North Korea, which he said has been unthreatening and respectful during his time in the White House. He also said that South Korea had declined to help with the US's war against Iran. The 11 days of exercises involving 18,000 South Korean soldiers is one of two drills conducted by the US and South Korea annually and are designed to help with the readiness against North Korean threats. Following Trump's post, South Korea expressed hopes for resumption of diplomacy between the US and North Korea to ease animosities on the Korean peninsula. The latest exercises were officially announced days after North Korea resumed ballistic missile testing activities banned by the UN. North Korea views the drills by the US and South Korea as a rehearsal for an aggressive war. The move is the latest example of the president appearing to turn against an ally in favour of a leader that previous administrations have cast as an adversary because of a perceived lack of support for his war against Iran. In the past, Trump and his allies have rallied against NATO allies, even as they seek to confront an increasingly aggressive Russia in the Baltic region.
So let me read his Truth Social post, President Trump's. Here it is. Based on my very good relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, I'm not happy with the fact the United States has long ago agreed to participate in joint military exercises with South Korea. These exercises are not only costly, with much of these costs paid for by the United States, as usual, but send a signal that is totally inappropriate and hostile to a country that, as long as I've been president, Donald J. Trump, he uses the first person, has been unthreatening and respectful. Therefore, and based on the fact that this is too late to cancel, I've instructed Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to substantially reduce the joint military exercises. While somewhat unrelated, I recently asked the president of South Korea if they'd like to join us in the denuclearization of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And they said, no thanks. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So obviously, President Trump isn't exactly happy with a couple things. First of all, South Korea's answer to the request for help with Iran when we give them just a ton of money and support them in every way. And he's sick of paying for everything, for America paying for everything. And, that's, I think, red meat for the base. We're sick of paying for everything. We don't need to do that all the time. They're a very rich nation. So let's get into this. This comes as the drills called Ulchi Freedom Shield kicked off today and are supposed to run through August 27th. Patriots, do you think this is a smart America First policy, or are we taking a dangerous risk? Please put your comments in there. I want to know what you think. Here's exactly what went down. As we just read on Truth Social, Trump said that he had a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un, and he's not happy the U.S. agreed to these exercises. He says they're costly, America's footing most of the bill as usual, and that they're totally inappropriate and hostile. They send a signal, an appropriate and hostile signal, to a country that's been respectful and unthreatening while he's been president. These aren't small training runs. Ulchi Freedom Shield involves 18,000 South Korean troops and a full gamut of U.S. troops. This year's drills were focused on Modern threats like countering drones, GPS jamming, cyber attacks, lessons learned from what North Korea has been picking up from the Ukraine war. North Korea, of course, calls these drills war rehearsals. Meanwhile, we still have about 28,500 American troops in the DMZ protecting South Korea. This is classic Trump, putting America first and refusing to let allies freeload. That doesn't mean we don't support South Korea or anything like that. It just means that, look, there's no free lunch anymore. We've been doing that for 70 years and it has to end because we're printing money to pay for it. And I know that doesn't work for you. It doesn't work for me either. They've benefited from our military protection for decades, South Korea. Yet, when we asked for help with Iran, they said no. Why should American taxpayers and troops carry the full load? Trump's approach has always been that real peace comes through strength and smart deals, not endless, expensive war games that poke the bear. He's had a personal rapport with Kim Jong-un before, and he sees this as a way to maybe open the door for talks instead of constant provocation. Plus, we have one conflict going on right now, and I think we should concentrate on that. That said, critics are calling this reckless. They argue that scaling back drills hurts our readiness and sends a weak signal to China and North Korea, and that Kim Jong-un has gotten more aggressive with his nukes and his missiles. North Korea's learned a lot from watching Ukraine, and some say now is the worst time to look soft. At the end of the day, this is Trump being Trump, demanding allies actually contribute instead of expecting us to be the world's policemen forever. What do you guys think? Is this a bold move to save money and push for peace? Or is it risky with a nuclear neighbor like North Korea? I definitely like you to put your comments and your thoughts and let me know what you think. But I don't disapprove of this. We're not turning down an ally who's in a fight for their life. We're just simply saying, look, all these expensive games and everything everyone comes to us for, if you're going to turn us down when we come to you for help, we don't need to spend all this money rehearsing war games. You're a rich country. You could pay for some of it. And I approve of that message. Let me know what you think, guys. Have a wonderful day. God bless.